Hi, in this video we are going to talk about the basics of isometrical perspective. Isometric perspective is a very particular instance of axonometric perspective. In that sense, we are going to first define what's the difference between conical and axonometric perspective. So, first of all, let's talk about conical perspective, which we have been working with these last weeks of coronavirus enclosure. So, as you can see in this kind of perspective, which you are already familiar with, if I take an element like this one, this box, which is basically, as you can see, it is exactly the same size as this one. And if you don't believe me, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate directly this cube, and I'm going to put it away from the viewer. So this is one central conical perspective, and as you can see, it goes away. And what happens when it goes away? It becomes smaller. So the closer this box is to its vanishing point, the smaller it becomes. And it doesn't matter if we are using one single central vanishing point, or if we are using, as I am using here, two vanishing points, since our cube is oblique. Now, it turns out if I convert this scene into an axonometric perspective, that thing, that is, the fact that the cube becomes smaller the further away from the viewer it is, doesn't happen anymore. And it really doesn't matter how I place and how I do locate the cubes. In fact, when we are watching this scene in what it's called in an isometric perspective like this, in which, as you can see, the angles between the edges corresponding to each and every one of the dimensions, that is, width, depth and height, the angles between them are basically the same, which is 120 degrees. So the moment I use this kind of very particular axonometric perspective, things are rather easy to understand. So, what is the advantage of the isometric perspective in comparison, for instance, with the conical perspective? Well, it allows us to, first of all, understand a full scene in a quicker way. That is, we are going to be able to, at the same time we know what is closer to the viewer and what is further away, we have a certain sense of depth, but at the same time we have a more synthetic view of the full scene, and that is going to allow us precisely to design games. It is so convenient for this type of things like video games. Due to the use of isometric perspective, the player is going to have a full perception of the scene, and at the same time he will be able to calculate distances and reference point. Now we know this girl is walking on this platform, but we already know that this platform is not above that one, it's just a little bit further away. And we are going to be able to do all those calculations, and we are going to be able to set all those conclusions by the use of stairs and ramps and all those elements. It is also used, of course, for the design of complex elements like houses. It is used in architecture. It couldn't be any other way. These kinds of pictures are going to allow us to understand perfectly well the proportions and also the inside details of the structure of housing. Since it is a so much convenient type of perspective that allows us to understand the relationships between the different elements, it is also used in this kind of pictures As you can see, those are infographics. This is the typical one that you are going to see in biology, which is the water cycle, and as you can see here, it is usually explained using this very specific type of perspective. It is also used, as you can see, for more complex engineering elements. This is, for instance, an engine, and also for more simple, trivial elements like furniture. These are the typical IKEA manuals, and yes, of course, it is also used the isometric perspective preferentially. So, how do we start drawing in an axonometric isometric perspective? We use a grid, like this one that I'm using here as the background on my Paint application. But of course, you can use directly an isometric grid. Just download it directly from Google. And what do? You get into Google and you write down these two words, isometric grid. You search in images, and also, this is very important, you will have to choose tools, herramientas, and select only the big ones. Okay, for instance, this one is going to be good enough, and in fact, this is the one that I used in my Paint example. What did I do? I just copied the image, copiar imagen. I went here into my picture. Here we have the picture perfectly blank, and then I just only had to paste it. Control, I press Control followed by V, and here we have it. What did I do? I took this layer and pulled the opacity a little bit down and add another layer. This way I will be able to draw directly on this grid, which allows me to draw parallel lines for each and every one of the 3 dimensions, that is depth, width and height, so easily. This way I will be able to draw a box which is above another box, so quick, so easily, due to the use of this type of perspective and the use of the grids. So, and this has been the introduction to this topic. Let's meet in further video tutorials. Thank you for your attention and stay safe.